Word Balloon is brought to you by the League of Word Balloon Listeners. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. I'm happy to welcome. You see him right there on my right. It's Steve Bryant, everybody, the creator of Athena Voltaire. Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for your patience, John, with the technical difficulties.
It's all right, man. It used to be easier when I could just call you on the phone. But, technology progresses and Word Balloon has to follow. So,
oh, absolutely. Here,
I'm glad you're up and running.
Okay. Had to slide my hard drive toward me a little bit so my earbuds weren't choking me.
Well, I'm sure. Absolutely, man. That's all right. Well, we have got a nice video to kind of present to get things going. And for people who are new to Athena Voltaire or are fans and want to hear about the new book, we've got your Kickstarter video all set. So let's play it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Steve Bryant, writer and co-creator of The Catch and Ghoul Scouts, and writer, artist, and creator of Athena Voltaire. Set against the backdrop of the 1930s, Athena Voltaire follows the exploits of a globetrotting adventuress taking on Nazis, supernatural creatures, occult monsters, and secret societies. It originally launched as a webcomic where we earned our Eisner Award nomination, and it continued into print at Ape Entertainment, Dark Horse, and currently at Action Lab. Athena Voltaire and the Orient Express picks up where Athena Voltaire and the Golden Dawn left off, but it also serves as a great starting point for new readers. This adventure finds Athena on board the famous luxury train, intending to catch up with an old friend, but an old adversary has other plans for her. As the name implies, Terror on the Orient Express has a lot in common with whodunit-style murder mysteries, but it's also inspired by claustrophobic horror movies like Alien and The Thing. Joining me on this volume are artist Abel Cicero and colorist D.C. Alonso. The prologue features the talents of a bunch of my creative friends, Jason Millay, Jim Nelson, June Bob Kim, and Gary Carbon. The volume is edited by Chris Murrin and Nicole DeAndrea, and Chris also wrote the prologue's framing sequence that I drew. We have a ton of awesome backer levels lined up. In addition to the book itself, as a PDF or in print, you can get the print version signed with an ink drawing of Athena on the title page. The volume was originally planned as part of the Athena Voltaire ongoing series, but you can still get the Athena Voltaire and the Orient Express storyline as individual issues, issues 9 to 12 of the ongoing series, or you can get these individual issues with the variant covers we had planned. We've got 3 different t-shirt designs this time around, from Voltaire Aviation to Always Punch Nazis, to a cover with Athena punching Hitler, saying, "Here's a taste of my alt-right." We've got a ton of original art rewards, and we have an exclusive cover where you can be a guest star and get 5 copies of that issue. Part of the fun of creating a Kickstarter campaign is coming up with the reward levels. It gives me a chance to kind of tap into that part of me that's a fan and think about the kind of stuff that I like to get in a campaign. And when we did the Kickstarter campaign for the Catch, we did these collector boxes. And I knew I wanted to do this with the Athena campaign as well. So we kind of stuffed these full of all kinds of campaign goodies. Now, obviously, we don't have the Athena ones printed yet, but this should give you a pretty good idea of, what we've got in mind with this. We have two different box sets. The mystery box contains a copy of the trade paperback and a 6x9 piece of original art that I drew for Inktober. My theme was characters from TV shows I liked, so you could get some Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad, The Magicians, whatever. It's a mystery. In the mystery box, along with the book and the artwork, you also get two previous comics I worked on. It could be stuff I've written, stuff I've drawn, or stuff I've written and drawn. Again, it's a mystery. Rounding out the mystery box, you get two pieces of promo swag from a couple of my creator-owned comics. This is the kind of stuff that's usually only available at conventions or in Kickstarter campaigns. Bookmarks, trading cards, buttons, postcards, that kind of stuff. The other box set is the collector's box. It includes a signed copy of the book with a drawing on the title page, all 4 individual issues, a set of Athena Voltaire flight wings, and the creator's edition of issue number 9. The first part of the volume. The Creator's Edition features every page broken down into 2-page spreads, with the script on the left and the corresponding page of the art on the right. It's the ultimate peek behind the curtain. We've also got add-ons if there's something you want that's not featured in the reward level you choose. And that wraps it up for this time. Thanks so much for checking out the campaign.
That was great, Steve. That's the first time I saw it all the way through, and it's a lot of information, but a lot of good information. And really, I'm very impressed with the amount of add-ons that you're doing in this campaign. I mean, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Athena Voltaire's. I have been since I was introduced to you and the character and the stuff that you were doing as a webcomic. And God, here we are 15 years later, and that's why I'm proud to include this kind of pull quote and everything to help your campaign.
Thank you so much.
It's the honest truth. Athena Voltaire is a great ongoing series. It captures the feel of vintage 1930s Republic serial film cliffhangers with a stylized look and action budget that they could only dream about. If you like The Rocketeer, you'll love Athena Voltaire. And yes, exactly. That is true. My true sentiments. And Indiana Jones fans and that kind of foreign intrigue action adventure is the highlight of Athena Voltaire. And really, I think the video did a great job of showing, your art examples and these new collaborators that you've got working in your style and the way that you set up your stories. Great choices, man. Honestly, I think the new book looks great.
Thank you so much. I got to remember to not look at my screen and look up here. But the conventional wisdom for a Kickstarter video is to limit it to 2.5 minutes. And that one runs way long, and I was really kind of nervous about it. But like you said, there was a lot of stuff I wanted to cover. And I know this is going to be amazing. I managed to sound that stiff, not reading like from any kind of teleprompter. That's just my natural gift at sounding awkward.
Your natural stiffness. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. It comes through. It's fantastic. No, honestly, I had forgotten about the mystery boxes that you did for the Catch. And again, I think you need to illustrate what they're getting. And that's the thing. And I think that looks fantastic. And again, all the different bonus stuff you're throwing inside from your original sketches. I love the idea of the issue 9 having that kind of director's cut where you're showing script and breakdowns and everything. I think that's very informative to aspiring comic creators. You got all the bases covered, man. Seriously, and I love the wings and everything. I think that's fun, and the t-shirts look great. What else can I say, man? Honestly, I'm boring because all I'm doing is praising you. But seriously, I really think how many campaigns have you done so far for
Um,
everything?
let's see. Count. Well, I'm going to count the Athena Voltaire campaign we did through Ape Entertainment when everything launched because I kind of coordinated that.
Yeah.
They handled fulfillment, but two for Athena that got funded, three for the Catch that got funded, and then Jason Millay and I did one for an unfunded project called Undead or Alive. I'd like to bring that one back sometime. So I guess this is number 7, lucky
Yeah.
number 7.
No, but that's what I mean. I mean, you really have upped your game in terms of what you're offering and how you're offering it, and it shows in the best ways. And I really think that Kickstarter continues to prove itself to be a very effective platform to sell original creations and everything. I'm sure your fan base has grown with this with the subsequent campaigns. But I mean, that's the thing. You put out a great, consistent product, and I think you have proven yourself. I mean, certainly in the 15 years I've known you, and since I've been doing Word Balloon and covering this stuff, and truly, I'm really excited for you because I think with each successive campaign, you're getting more followers, and it's resulting in better sales and again better awareness of your stuff.
Well, thank you so much. And like okay, can I go on a bit of a tangent about the Kickstarter stuff?
Please.
Okay, cool. So I went back to school and completed my undergrad and my master's degree. And in grad school, I was in a class about human machine interaction, and we had to write a paper. And I hadn't written a paper in 30 years, something like that. And I finally came upon an idea that I wanted to explore, which was the way that social media allows, and the internet in general, allows creatives to connect directly with their audience and in some ways eliminate the need for a middleman, a publisher or a record label and stuff like that.
Totally.
And so like there was some really interesting stuff that I learned along the way that I didn't know, like the British progressive rock band Marillion actually did a version of crowdfunding when they had been dropped by their label in like 1999.
Oh,
I knew nothing of this, but I was reading an article where the keyboard player had been lurking on message boards in 1999, and the fans were wondering why the band hadn't made a U.S. trip. And he said he finally kind of outed himself and said, well, we can't afford it. We've been dropped by the label, and it would cost like $60,000 or something to mount a trip. And the fans on their own began an escrow account and funded the tour.
That's outstanding.
It's
I love
amazing.
stuff like that. Yeah.
And since then, they made pre-orders and stuff like that for albums. They were doing crowdfunding a decade before Kickstarter. And now the weird thing for me is I did my first campaign in 2010 about the platform. I think was like 9 months old, and did quite well with it. I was slow on fulfillment, but I did, really well with it. And I promptly abandoned crowdfunding so that I could seek validation in, traditional comic publishing.
Working with a publisher. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I kind of looked back on that when I wrote that paper, and I was like, you did the same thing with webcomics. You reached a certain point with it and said, well, I'm going to drop this and I'm going to go and do this other thing. And I think now I'm just kind of looking at all these things and trying to figure out a way to course correct and focus on what's worked rather than what, validates me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, man. No, and that's hilarious. Marillion, I remember, and you likely do as well. We're close enough in age.
Yeah.
The young ones back in the 80s.
That's right.
That MTV show, and Neil, the hippie of the group, that was his band, Marillion. And anytime I hear Marillion, I immediately think of the young ones. But it really is brilliant. And God, you're not the first comic creator to reach that same conclusion that why am I chasing Image or any publisher when I'm doing what I need to do on my own through Kickstarter? My buddy Ryan Brown, I don't know how well you know Brownie, but
I don't know him, but I think I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, and he's one of the Chicago guys and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
He's tied with Sealy and Mike Norton and stuff. And truly, I mean, he did God Hates Astronauts as a webcomic, and then he did Kickstarters, incredibly successful. Image approached him and said, "Do you want to do it with us?" And he's like, "Sure." And he did 12 issues, and he's like, "I make more money and connect better with my audience doing Kickstarters. Thank you, Eric and Image. You guys are great. I'm going to do my thing." And no hard feelings, and that's just the way it ended. And again, it's very effective, like you said. And really, a lot of times a publisher is absolutely necessary, but in some cases, their needs get in the way of the product getting to the fans. And again, if you're able to build a fandom on your own, Jesus, especially in today's comic publisher climate, why not do it? I mean, God, keep the lion's share of the money for yourself and everything.
Well, yeah, and I think and I say this with all the knowledge of someone that's never been published through Image. So, grain of salt time. But, much in the same way that a creator doesn't need to sell as many units at Image to make them that they would at like a Marvel or DC, when they're working on a corporate owned book. I wonder if it's kind of a similar situation where an independent creator doesn't need to sell as many books on Kickstarter as they would through Image to make a comparable amount. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to, figure it out.
Sure.
And be more efficient and effective. But yeah, it's been a blast so far. And
well, you're not overpaying for printing on a couple thousand issues that you're not able to sell. I mean, you're able to really set your printing concerns to whatever level the Kickstarter, rewards you with it. I mean, and results in. So with that thinking, obviously, that's a good savings of cost that you can afford. And again, get a better end of the profit. Again, also not asking a publisher to risk overprinting or however those deals work. But yeah, man. I mean, I think that's the great news in today's environment, and because of all these crowdfunding and other fundraising platforms, that there is more than one way to break through the comic book business, gather an audience, and make it something you can continue to do and make a profit from it and make a living out of it.
Right. I don't know about the making a living off of it part.
Fair enough.
Fingers crossed. But and I mean the whole plan with going back to school, my idea was. By the way, is it better when I look at the camera, or does that look creepy? Because I can look at the screen too.
Well, okay. Whatever you're comfortable with, man. I mean, I mean, honestly, just in conversation, sometimes I'm looking down.
Yeah,
I can't help it. So yeah, but whatever you're comfortable with, you're cool.
Okay, cool. But yeah, the whole plan, when I went back to school was get a master's degree, work toward teaching, have summers off, make more comics, go to more conventions, and just kind of focus more in a grassroots kind of way. So that's kind of where I'm planning to try to shift and maintain that audience connection and try to deliver better work and in a faster way. Not necessarily make it faster, but when the Kickstarter funds and stuff like that, get it out there quickly.
Well, you just followed up with your Catch campaign, which we did did we do it in the fall of 2020 or late summer? Or when did we talk?
No, we talked. I think it was like March.
Oh God, it really was it that early? Excuse me.
I'm pretty sure it was the issue 2 campaign.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
And yeah, we followed it up with the issue 3 campaign, and Mireya, who's coloring the book, is wrapping it up, and it looks beautiful. And yeah, I was a little hesitant to have this campaign kind of layer with the other one, but Athena is still being published through Action Lab, so I'm essentially buying 2/3 of the print run with this campaign. And what that's going to do is hopefully I can get it cheaper this way. And it's going to have like the 3-month turnaround because they print overseas. So my goal for the immovable date for this campaign was to have the campaign closed, the books back from China or wherever they're printing, and shipped out to subscribers, backers, before I leave for San Diego Comic-Con, if there is a San Diego Comic-Con.
Sure.
So, kind of working backwards from all that. So it did kind of overlap with the catch a little bit. And I was a little worried at first that, there would be hesitancy, but people that buy my books are really generous and kind and patient. So I'm lucky.
That's great, man. And truly, I'm not surprised, and I'm glad to hear that the audience is, for Athena is also showing up for the catch and stuff like that. Um, Comics, Coffee, and Metal. Steve is an inspiration both creatively and personally. Looking forward to reading the new Athena. Very nice.
Oh, hi, Don. Thank you.
Very cool. Absolutely, man. No, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear positive chiming in from the League of Word Balloon listeners. Absolutely, and it's always good to see that. Hey, man. Like I said, you and I, we've been doing. I don't know how much. I don't know how early you started. You with the webcomic and stuff. Was it around 2000?
It launched in 2001.
Okay.
September. No, or was it September of 2000? I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's right around
Goddamn,
20 years.
Yeah. Insane, man. No, and that's what I'm saying. Well, and that's why when we first met and everything, it was Word Balloon was just getting started, 2005, and you were telling me about the webcomic and everything, and I was really excited. And again, I love your style of art. I do recommend people beyond getting Athena Voltaire and the catch and the like that they ought to hit you up for commissions because you do a great job with your original commissions and everything. And shame on me that I haven't asked you for a Columbo or something like that.
Good to know. But well, thank you. It's so funny because I remember finding Word Balloon in the earlier days of comics podcasting, and I remember it was the episode where you interviewed Doug Klaba.
Oh, funny. Sure.
And Doug had won a Spectrum Award for his Mercury piece.
Yep.
For Spectrum, the best of fantasy art and stuff like that. And it was one of those things of him, and then secondly, I had the realization of knowing you from Chicago sports radio and making that connection. So it was like, God, it's such a small world,
Absolutely, man. No, it's funny. Shelley Bond just discovered my shaky nickname, and is like shaky, and I love when friends first learn about that nickname and that I won't call myself another persona. It is still me, but that was my score nickname, my sports talk nickname for 10 years. And I remember even meeting you and you're like, pardon me, are you shaky? And it's like, and seriously, how do you feel? Like, how does anybody feel when they get that kind of question? And it's great though, because honestly, it's like, wow. It was close enough to the last times I was on the air and not behind the scenes making commercials in radio. But goddamn, I'll tell you, 20 years later, and truly, like from not being on day to day radio, and really, actually, recently I was back on day to day when I was working at WBBM doing traffic reporting.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, honestly, it was so nice to meet people in the comics community at conventions who were like, didn't I used to listen to you on the score? And it's like, yes, you did, which is great. And thank you. God, I always say Daniel Way, the guy who wrote, Monkey and Deadpool for years and all that, Wolverine. But he was a sports radio listener, and he caught me on the Sporting News Radio Network, and down in like Savannah, Georgia. And he's like, yeah, man, you're the boxing guy. I remember you. Absolutely. And I'm like, that's amazing. Steve Wacker, another downstate guy, grew up listening to the score. And it was like, oh, yeah, I used to listen to you, that's hilarious. So worlds collide.
and then it was weird to talk about the downstate stuff, and you knew Street, who I feel like I owe
Yeah.
90% of my career to Tim Bradstreet.
Great guy. Goddamn, seriously, Stephen. We obviously I don't want to expose anything if he wants to say hidden. Do you know where he is currently? I don't. I haven't been able to reach him, lately, and I hope he's well, and I'm sure he is. But it just seems like he's dropped out of the community, the comics community.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's working on, but it was so weird.
Did you see him in San Diego at the last, 2019?
I missed him at that one, but I did drop off some books for him, and I think it was like the next month. I might have even been a birthday text from him, but he sent me just like the sweetest complimentary text.
Great.
About the work and improving, and I mean,
great guy.
Well, yeah, and he is the reason that I got my first job in role-playing games at Game Designers Workshop, because he recommended I apply there. And from there, he introduced me to Jim Nelson and Jeff Lobenstein and Joel Bisk at FASA, the people that do Shadowrun and Battletech.
Yep.
And I ended up moving up to Chicago 3 years later because of that connection. And, through the FASA connection, I started getting pro badges at Wizard Chicago. Well, it was Chicago Comic-Con at the time. It later became Wizard Chicago. So yeah, I mean, this whole line just through knowing Tim, again, I'm sure he has no idea the impact he made, but yeah, geez, man.
Well, it's just that kind of action that you don't forget and you appreciate it, and it doesn't surprise me. And again, yeah, Tim and I've talked about it before on Word Balloon, and you know all this, but I was going to Illinois State while he was going to Illinois Wesleyan. And we went, and I mean, obviously it didn't matter. They were, 2 minutes away from each other by car, the two schools. And so all the same comic stores were the ones that we went to. And, Dreamth, of course, Lloyd's, Lloyd the Psycho Cowboy and his store. And and also Metropolis Comics was the other one. And that's really where I knew Tim, was at Metropolis, that store. And neither of them exist anymore down there at normal Central Illinois. But yeah, like I remember Tim selling, he had an Outlaw Josie Wales.
Yeah. And he did prints of that.
Yep. And I remember him having a signing at Metropolis Comics and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know Tim did this. This is amazing. And then a couple of years later, like you said, he's doing games and Marvel covers and the like. And it's like, holy shit. And so then, and he knew me as a local DJ, not only at the campus station, but also working at WIHN, which was the adult contemporary hit station down there. And, so he knew I was working at the radio station, and also we're both into comics, and I knew about him being an artist. And then cut to like around 2000 or 2001, and I'm at Wizard Chicago, and he's at his booth, and I'm like, remember me? And he's like, yeah, John, Jesus. And he's like, what are you doing now? And I'm like, I'm in radio. And he's like, I'm in comics. And we're like, look where we both landed, isn't it? And truly, it was fantastic. And then just a couple years later, when I started the podcast, I'm like, dude, you got to come on. And he's like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like I said, it's been years since he's been on, but I miss him, and he's a great guy. And at every San Diego, since he moved out there and everything, as I'm sure is the case with yourself, and based on you telling me that he's texting you on your birthday and stuff, no, man, he's a great old friend, and it's and I only wish him well. But yeah, I miss him, and I would love to touch base and get him back on the show. So should you have a new correspondence with him, try and remember and say, oh, Centris is looking for you.
Well, I was kind of hoping, I tagged him on Facebook with the same way I tagged you on Twitter with
this campaign.
Yeah, the campaign, because he gave me a really great quote for it years back, and I was kind of hoping to hear from him, but I haven't yet. But actually, it's because of Tim that I had my greatest comic convention experience. It was back when Jason Millay, who's now coloring Athena, and he's coloring for Andrew Peepoy on like Simone and Ajax. He did like Archie Predator and other stuff like that. But Jason and I were schlepping our portfolios around San Diego, and ran into Tim and hung out, after the con with him, and he introduced us to Bernie Wrightson, and we spent an evening, on the back steps, I guess, at the Hyatt.
Yeah,
Is that where the back steps are?
Yeah.
Yeah, talking with Bernie Wrightson, and that was fantastic. And then the next day, we're making our rounds, trying to get people to buy it on their portfolios, and Tim says, "Why don't you come back here and have a seat? I gotta go out and have a smoke." So we're babysitting Tim's table, and like out of nowhere, a head pops up between Jason and me, like inches from each of our faces, and says, "Hey guys, how's it going?" And Bernie Wrightson claps us both on the shoulder, and it's like,
Yeah.
He didn't know me from Adam, but because I was a friend of Tim, he was so kind and he's probably kind and gracious to everyone, but it really made that whole trip. I didn't get any work, but I had a Bernie Wrightson moment, and that was super great.
Tim also introduced me to Bernie, and Bernie, years ago, and I want to get this all correct in my head. Tom, Century Guild.
Yeah.
And I'm blanking on Tom's last name. Forgive me, Tom.
Nagovin?
Tom Nagovin, thank you. Tom Nagovin of Century Guild, in a conjunction with me and Dan Brereton in Nocturnals. Tom was publishing a version of the Nocturnals for Dan, and to help promote it, he's like, "Hey, what if we put together a little mini magazine of word balloon transcribing some of your interviews and using Nocturnals art, but I'll also ask other people to help us with art as well." And at the time, Tim was doing Bad Planet with the actor Thomas Jane,
right,
of The Expanse and Punisher and the like, Hung, his fine HBO show. They had gotten so many great artists to do covers for Bad Planet, and they got Mark Schultz, and they got Bernie and a few others.
And Dave Stevens' last work.
Absolutely, man. Yeah. So that's how, when I met Bernie through Tim, introduces me to Bernie. He's like, "Oh yeah, Bernie, by the way, we're using your cover as an ad for in John's Word Balloon magazine for Bad Planet. I hope that's okay." And he's like, "Oh wow, cool, great, fantastic." And I'm just like, "Bernie, I can't tell you how excited I am to have, even as an advertisement, a piece of your art in something that I made. That's amazing. Couldn't have been sweeter." And then later that same weekend, we were at some private party with Tim and Tom Jane, and that's when I met Frank Darabont and Joe Jusko.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah, and again, that was all through Tim. And actually, October was with our buddy October Crafasi.
Yeah.
She came with as well, and it's like, can you fucking believe this? We're meeting Frank Darabont and we're meeting Joe Jusko. Yeah, it was hilarious. So
it's truly amazing. Well, you and Tim have a lot in common in that ability to remember people's names and very social and outgoing. And for for a social anxiety stress bomb like me, that's admirable. I look at that, I'm like, how do you do that?
Well, I'm glad you talk up as much as you do, because yeah, like you said, I mean, no, we have all these mutual friends.
Yeah.
Klauba's another one, obviously. I mean, that's been the great thing. And it continues to happen, where suddenly we discover people that we're connected to that you don't expect and everything. And that just continues to happen to me with the podcast and the various comic and nerd creators that I meet.
I bet.
So yeah, it's freaking amazing. So, but honestly, man, no, I'm excited. And again, in the video, you pretty much cover what to expect as far as the story with Athena, and she's on the Orient Express and the infamous train that travels through Europe, and the backdrop for the great Agatha Christie mystery. And again, I think an excellent setting for that period, and for a hero like Athena. I think it's awesome, man.
Well, thanks. Yeah, it's part of when I first went back to school, I signed a licensing deal with Action Lab for them to produce the book, and I would write it, and they would cover other artists and stuff like that. And that's what the ongoing series Kickstarter campaign we did through Action Lab was for. And there were some publishing delays. The original plan was to do it for 2 years. So I planned out this whole thing with kind of a number of subplots and a larger story. It was really exciting because it was the kind of thing that at the time I knew I would not have the wherewithal to kind of produce regularly enough. And we got through the second arc. Orient Express is the third. So I was gonna come back after this 2-year period that has stretched longer, and go back to writing and drawing it. But as it turns out, the next volume after Orient Express, I'm going to be writing and drawing. So I'm hoping for that for next year. But it's been really cool to see other people interpret the character, because every time somebody else works on one of my scripts, it helps me to understand staging better, and I'm trying to bring that to my own artwork as I go. So it's always a learning experience, because I now look at the stuff that I've done that's in print that at the time I was pleased with, and I just shudder, which that's just the way to go.
Yeah, that's Jesus, man. Let me pull an air check from the score of me interviewing somebody, and it's not too many degrees off the Chris Farley show. I mean, let's be honest. It's the truth, man. Honestly, yeah. I mean, that's why I don't have a lot of air checks from that 10-year period. And again, no, you keep getting better. It's 10,000 reps. It's what Malcolm Gladwell always said, and it's absolutely true. So, regarding the artists, did you have control over who you chose, and how'd you end up with these guys? Did they do samples? Did they do character studies? What did they do to show you what they can do?
Whoops. Previous publisher.
Action.
Yeah. Now I'm losing my headphones. See, I'm falling apart, John. I'm like,
don't worry, buddy. Don't worry.
But Action Lab works through an agency, Buxedo. I'm probably mispronouncing it.
Are they South American?
Spain.
Okay.
And I've gotten to know Lewis, the guy, the main agent behind it. And he's a sweetheart of a guy. He's been super supportive of my stuff. But it's funny because the first 3 artists that he pitched all ended up working on the book, which is pretty cool. But the first arc, Athena, Voltaire, and the Sorcerer Pope, the artist for that was Ishmael Canales, who I became friends with, and he's my co-creator on The Catch. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I've gotten to pick all the artists, and everybody has been just a joy to work with. So I'm stupidly lucky that I get to learn from everybody that works on this book with me. So,
Well, and again, I think their styles complement your style, and that's why. I mean, I'm used to you drawing Athena. It was a surprise to learn, and I maybe. Again, when last time we talked was The Catch. I don't know if we ever have talked about an Athena Kickstarter before. I know we have when it was at Dark Horse and a couple of the moves over the years. But it was surprising. But then I saw the art and I'm like, oh my God, it's it's close enough to your style that I think it's not jarring in any way and consistent with the character.
Yeah, I mean, I just really. I totally lucked out with everybody I've worked with. So it's a dream. And I'm looking for, I am chomping at the bit to get back and draw more of this too. But, right now it's really cool to see the pages coming in. DC Alonso is coloring it. The main body of this story arc is drawn by Abel Cicero. And boy, those guys are just a great pairing. So I'm super excited.
Do you trust them to block everything themselves, or do you give them breakdowns of how you want to see it, or even as a suggestion? I mean, I always ask the writers that know their art as well, how do they, convey what they're looking for with the artist, and how much room do they give them versus how much, specific direction?
Well, actually, when I first started doing comic samples, uh, my friend Alan Nunes had shared studio space with Al Williamson. And so through Alan, I got to meet Al, but I also got to meet Mark Schultz, who is another one of my big influences.
Great guy.
Yeah, Mark's awesome. And um, I hit Mark up for a copy of his Predator Hell and High Water script, the Predator series he did at Dark Horse with Gene Colan drawing it.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first experience with seeing a real comic script. And I got to talk to Mark about the script afterwards. And, he rarely specified camera angles. It was mostly just telling you what was in the scene and what was important. And he let you tailor it to your abilities to get the best work out of it, because he didn't want to restrain anybody with,
Sure.
trying to dictate what Mark Schultz would draw. And that made a really big impact on me. So I try to get out of whoever I'm working with. I try to get out of their way when I write for them. And, I've tried to work Marvel style for myself when I'm writing and drawing, but I can't. I still need that skeleton at least. So, but yeah, I mean, I try to not dictate too much for anyone, and I think that's largely because of Mark's influence.
Sitting with a character as long as you have for 20 years now with Athena,
Yikes!
yeah, but honestly, I think it's interesting. Obviously, locales change, villains change, whatever threats change, but anything as you write this woman, has your interpretation of her character evolved over the years?
I think so. Like, I used to be really afraid to, maybe not afraid, but hesitant to tackle like romantic relationships. Uh, and with the ongoing series, that was one of the things I wanted to kind of lay out in the storyline. And you know, I don't want to screw it up, but yeah, just trying to learn how to write a character better. And I think that's been part of it. But another part of it has been expanding the world from just the straight up pulpiness, and being able to make a deep dive in screwball comedies, or the Thin Man movies and stuff like that, and just listening to the way the banter kind of pattered back and forth, and trying to adapt that sensibility to comics. Because I mean, even if you want to break down like Indy's relationship with Marion in Raiders, that's a screwball comedy.
Absolutely.
And I know you get that because you're steeped in all this stuff as well.
Oh yeah. Oh,
so yeah, it's kind of that thought of it doesn't just have to be derivative of this one really cool thing from the period, because there's a bunch of cool stuff. So Orient Express kind of reflects that. The next story arc is going to be a little bit more of a straight up Nazi punching story, and then the one after that is a Hollywood story. So that's gonna,
fun.
It's fun to kind of play with the history and play with the just the other period pieces that make up all the influences.
Well, and also this occurred to me, and it really, not only talking to yourself but others that are using pulp and the backdrop of pulp as an influence on their modern writing. Now we can do foreign intrigue and go back to that period, and a lot of the stereotypical portrayals of other people of color or ethnicities or whatever, we have a more nuanced understanding of those people and even those periods, thankfully, with recorded history and, depending on the creator, the willingness to go and find those backstories. And it's a much more richer experience than what Robert Howard and Walter Gibson and the like were giving us at the actual contemporary time.
Yeah, yeah. And again, as a cishet white guy, I don't want to pretend, and I don't want to try to co-opt anybody else's story, but I also want to be conscious of um, the broader picture and touch upon some of these things, either in a really positive way, like Athena is anachronistic in this, and there will never be a storyline where there's a threat of rape. That's
I
just
understand. No,
because.
sure.
But I mean, I know some people would be like, well, there's a big group of people. No, I don't ever want to go that way. And so, in some ways, that's anachronistic for the way the period pieces are done, with, leering and shit like that,
Yeah,
stuff like
but
that. But by the same token, um, I was rereading Orient Express when I was the my Orient Express, not the real one. When I was lettering the comic, and like 2 years ago, I had forgotten that I had written this in. She's partnered up with a black Indiana Jones, essentially,
okay.
and they're trying to solve like what's killing everybody on the train. And again, I don't know how well it lands in the final comic, but I tried to write it, with a certain amount of subtlety where um, passengers are ignoring, like they split up, and passengers are ignoring Athena, and then Quinn, the explorer, is asking questions, and nobody's answering him. They're all walking away. And then the third, sequence is the conductor, and of course everybody's talking to him because
He's a white guy.
he's a white French guy, right? So and again, I don't know how well it lands, but I'm trying to expand, the view and the worldview, and it's the more my worldview grows, it becomes a little bit more of a tightrope because um, I still like the broader sense of adventure and the fact that there were uncharted parts of the world. We didn't have everything laid out by satellite, but by the same token, um, yeah, Robert E. Howard, and as much as I love Edgar Rice Burroughs, it's littered with white savior stories and fetishizing other cultures, and I want the world in the book to be broad and big, and the mysterious stuff that she's uncovering to be exotic, but I don't want that to translate to,
Misogyny and yeah,
yeah,
I understand.
and
Absolutely.
it's
But that's great because honestly, that means there are fresh story opportunities for writers to take those tropes and apply a better, broader sensibility. I mean, Ram V and I were talking about this. He's got that great book, These Savage Shores.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
it's a white English British vampire coming to the southeast, and I don't remember specifically which country it was, but that's a great opportunity to take the white savior idea and flip it, and also taking it from the native country standpoint rather than the white man problem solver that is coming to tame the wild and tame the savages and all again of the stuff that was looked at without batting an eye 90 years ago, but it is a different world. But again, I just see that as a positive story opportunity to take the best parts of foreign intrigue and applying a better sensibility. And it's not rewriting history, it's a clarification of yeah, the Aztecs were a different race than white people, but they had a very complicated and fascinating civilization that, goddamn, it's a shame that it was lost to history
right.
because again, it would have been an interesting contribution. And if you have stories from an Aztecian, for lack of a better description, point of view, there's a real opportunity there to learn. And how would they view Jimmy White guys suddenly showing up in
Well,
their
yeah.
country and environment?
And yeah, it's, gosh, um, it's, again, I feel like I have to acknowledge, cishet white guy, um, because I don't want to, I don't want to come in and try to problem solve everything either. Um, and I feel like sometimes treating the characters, um, with a modern sensibility in a period piece can also be valuable. But yeah, sometimes acknowledging the awkward or bad history is just as important. And it can be painful, it can be uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's not a valuable journey.
I agree. And I also think, too, I really, as much as I appreciate the idea of, hey, don't tell our story, let us tell our story, whether it's women or people of other colors or whatever, that stay in your lane attitude from an audience to a writer, I bristle at, because it's like you got to let a writer be imaginative and write things beyond whatever was in their world. Because it again, I think it's important for Athena. Are there women from your life that have spoken, and that's the voice you wanted to give to Athena?
Boy, it'd be great if that was. But no, not really. It's been more just of a kind of an ongoing exploration. Um, because I wasn't a writer when I started on it, and as I've started to write more and more, I've kind of figured out what I want to write and the kind of voices I want to give the characters, and learning about the kind of flaws that I want to give characters. And I'm not in that Greg Rucka territory where he so brilliantly crafts the flaws into the character, and you love them for that. But I'm trying to figure out some of those things. But yeah, there's no specific voice. It's really just kind of, I don't know, learning the character as I go.
Gotcha. Very cool. No, that's cool, man. Again, hey, man, I'm hitting you with fresh questions, and that's good.
No,
I'm
I
glad
like
that
it.
we're
I
able
like
to,
it.
and it's as we're talking, these things are occurring to me, and they're, like I said, they're things that have kind of been in the back of my head in the last couple years as other genre writers like yourself come back to foreign intrigue, which again, it's truly one of my absolute favorite genres. And again, I mean, it is tough to introduce a new audience to Burroughs and Howard and Walter Gibson with his shadow novels, and the Doc Savage writers of the day, Lester Dent and the like. If I always forget if Lester Dent was that was the real writer. Kenneth Robeson, I think, was the pen
Yeah,
name,
yeah,
but one's
yeah, yeah.
the real name, and I believe
Yeah.
Dent was the real guy. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, as fun as those broad strokes are, every now and then you run into, for a Will Eisner example and Ebony White, that it's like, oh, and again, for a kid, it could be really shocking. And it's a shame because you don't want to close their mind to the genre completely. And that's why I even bristle when they describe foreign intrigue as white savior comes
Right, right.
to strange land and teaches the natives and everything. And it's like it doesn't have to be that way. And that's why I think it's an exciting opportunity in this era to revisit that stuff. So I'm glad people like Rom and yourself are doing it.
Well, it's a learning experience, and it's just trying to be a better person, I think, because I do love these kinds of stories, but yeah, I do have to acknowledge that, you know, from a person of color or a woman's perspective, there's sometimes not a lot in there. I'm
As
I'm
far
a
as the past
huge
goes, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I'm a huge Dave Stevens fan, and I can tell people, oh, the brush lines are, these beautiful lush lines and all this other stuff. But I know there are some people that when they see the shot of the Rocketeer with Betty slung over his shoulder, they're not going to get past that too. And that's not what brings me there. I can do a whole dissertation on Dave's style of feathering, and how he does the really slick, controlled Russ Manning lines, and then he'll do these beautiful, lush, loose cross contour Frazetta lines, and that's what that's the part I'm here for. But not everybody's going to get that. So trying to reframe not just the old stuff, but even comic stuff from
25 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
35 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole curve just trying to figure it out.
Well, another guy, it's funny, and forgive me for cross promotion, but I got it yesterday and was thinking about our talk today. But Steve
Yeah.
Mooney and Half Past Danger, and just got his Kickstarter that I supported, his Christmas special. And he's another guy like that draws beautiful women, but draws strong characters,
Yeah.
and loves that great adventure period, but can do it with a modern sensibility. Yeah, man, it's you're right. I think a lot of, especially Dave is a perfect example, and I mean his adoration of Betty Page could be misconstrued, and it's like no, you don't get it. He honors this woman.
Right. I
And,
mean,
it's not exploitive. It's not. He's taken what was exploitive of what she did and truly did flip it to. And I'm so glad that he was able to help her.
I was going to say, you knew the story of him like tracking her down and essentially paying her for her likeness in the
Yes.
Rocketeer, and
Yes.
driving her, around
Yes.
for shopping and stuff. And yeah, it boy, isn't it always nice, back to the Bernie Wrightson discussion or the Mark Schultz discussion. Isn't it always nice when like there are these people whose work you admire and it turns out that they're even better human beings than they are creatives?
100%, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah,
just gives you hope.
well, no, and truly, I'm, and forgive me, I don't remember because, like you said, you met Al Williamson and stuff. Had you ever met Stevens? I never got a chance to meet him.
I Okay, like meeting Williamson was awesome because I spent a day in his studio with my pal Alan, and that was wonderful. But with Stevens, I met him like at San Diego Comic Con, but it was like, will you sign this kind of
Sure.
moments. And I never really had a chance to share the Athena Voltaire stuff with him because I never thought it was good enough. And everything I've read about him, I really think he would have been incredibly gracious at my ham-handed, attempts to riff on what he does. And I really regret that one. And, it's one of those things where as we're seeing some of these really bright lights passing, where you just want to reach out to anybody, either at a show or you track them down on social media and just let them know what their work means to you. And that's become really important to me. There are a few creators, contemporaries that I've read some stuff recently by that I want to send emails to and just say, oh my God, this was great. Well, our friend Jim Terry, I still haven't reached out to him since reading Indio, and God, that's the best graphic novel I read in years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
Jim, hey,
you're right. And yeah, that's a password balloon everyone should look up and listen to and watch because really Jim did an amazing job telling his life story in Indio. Mike Hawthorne did the same thing recently.
yeah,
His autobiographical comic is outstanding. Yeah, I'm with you on both counts. And yeah, Jim's terrific. Jim is another superstar that's just like the right project hasn't hit the comic atmosphere to get wide awareness. And all of us know how great he is as an artist and a writer. But yeah, it hasn't happened for him yet, but I'm glad he's still doing it. And I know eventually his audience will find him and
oh
be very
yeah,
happy for it when they do. So yeah.
um, yeah, and it's that whole thing of reaching out to these people when the work resonates with you. And like I said, I couldn't read anything for a week after finishing Indio just
Yeah.
because I was still digesting and processing and thinking, could I ever, you know, be that raw and honest? And I don't know that I have the capability to do that, but holy crap, is that a
Well,
good book?
absolutely. And honestly, I feel that way about a lot of art where there are people that really do make it autobiographical and tell you this is who I am and it's the only way I can express myself is
Yeah.
showing you through my art. And I get that, but I also think there's just value of cloaking it in adventure stories or however you channel that energy. And
Yeah.
whether it's something that on its surface is completely 180 degrees of however you are and what made your life or whatever, so be it. But I just think both are valid, and I appreciate the people that are willing to put themselves out there and the rawness of their life and expose it that way. But by the same token, I'm like, well, you don't have to do that. I always
Right.
think that with stand up, because a lot of stand ups, especially of the last 25 years or so, are really almost working out their shit on stage.
Yes.
And that's great. That's fine. But it's like, two Jews walk into a bar also still works, you know, as my Jewish friends will tell me. So, I mean, why not? So, hey, look who's popping in and saying yay. It's
Oh,
Hillary Martin.
hey. Hi, Hillary.
He's like, what the fuck is John talking about right now? I just came to hear Bryant talk about Athena Voltaire. Well, you missed that part, unfortunately.
No. No,
But go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say he's here for you, man.
Shut up. No. I'll remind everyone again. There's a great ad with the pull quote from Word Balloon itself here. But Athena Voltaire now on Kickstarter. Orient Express. Oh, that's good. I like it. AV dash underscore Orient Express with the Bitly URL. That's a great way to let people know. For people on the audio side, so it's bit.ly, bit.ly/AV underscore Orient Express, all one word. That will get you to Steve's Kickstarter page for this campaign. And it's amazing.
Also, oh, thank you. And yeah, also I think it's on like the front comics page because we ended up as a Kickstarter project we love, which was, really, boy, the first day was pretty great getting an email like that and taking off. And I got to apologize. I keep looking over my shoulder because we are like, oh, hang on. Literally, I'm looking over my shoulder and I just got another alert.
Are you funded? Did you
We're
make your
really
initial call?
close.
That's great.
Hang on, it's got to load. Oh, holy crap. We are $141
Oh, wait, from your
from
goal.
being funded. Yeah.
That's
And
outstanding, man. Very good.
We launched on Tuesday,
Yeah.
like afternoon. And
3 days and change, man.
it's boy, I was so nervous about asking for this number because it's more than I've ever made on Kickstarter. And, I think we're going to hit it before we hit the 4-day mark. And it's just,
that's outstanding, buddy.
Yeah.
I'm really happy for you, truly.
I'm verklempt.
Well, again, and I'm glad you are because you deserve that kind of, wow, I can't believe the support. But again, you put in the effort. This being your 7th campaign, I'll review everything we've already discussed. But it's the truth, man. I mean, you're learning from each campaign, and I think it's benefiting you, and you're getting it down. I mean, as you know, our friends like Palmiotti, they've got it down to a science.
Oh,
Greg
yeah.
Pak, guys like that. And I'm glad because then they get to do the stories that they want and are making enough of a profit that they can keep doing it. So that's wonderful, man. So, I'll join the club.
I'm trying. Okay, I've got to point something out because this has been weirding me out the whole time. So I'm largely lit by my computer screen in front of me, and I feel like I'm appearing on Word Balloon as a Force ghost from Star Wars.
You do have a
I
blue
know.
pitch to you. You're right.
I know, right?
All you need is the aura around you like a good Force ghost.
We'll add that in After Effects later.
Let go. Yes, exactly. Well, I had to take a bulb out on my ceiling because I was almost getting a J.J. Abrams lens flare halo over my head where I was Roger Moore in The Saint.
Now,
Simon Templar. So
nice. but I will die on the hill that J.J. Abrams' TV work is stellar. The movie stuff I know is not as appreciated, but just on the basis of Fringe and Alias, particularly Alias, he has a lifetime pass from me for those two.
I won't go as far as say a lifetime pass, but I will say that I absolutely adored Alias and respected the hell out of Fringe. And yeah, those were amazing. And I'm always willing to give him a shot from a movie standpoint. I, as you know, and I won't go into detail, but unfortunately, his disciples that run Star Trek Discovery and Picard, not a fan. And it's that simple. And unfortunately, they're taking the JJ mystery box blueprint
Yeah.
of. It's funny when you were referring to the Athena Voltaire things as mystery boxes and stuff. Those are good mystery
Oh yeah,
boxes.
yeah.
Steve's offering good mystery boxes, not the bullshit ones that JJ and company offer that you really don't get a satisfying answer to
Well,
the
okay.
questions they throw out there.
I got a
And
point.
sadly, including Alias. I mean, forgive me,
Oh
and then
yeah.
I do want to hear what you think because a good friend of mine that used to be a Word Balloon regular guest even confessed to me, and he was a writer on Alias and Lost, and it was like I'm like the whole Rambaldi, Nostradamus kind of thing. He's like, oh, we had no plan. We were throwing shit against the wall as we went, and it's like okay, but I mean, and they did have more of a plan for Lost, but that's the thing, man. And again, you point to other misfires of JJ's, and a lot of it is a lot of mystery box stuff that doesn't pay off. What were you going to say?
Well, when you were talking about the mystery box in the Athena Kickstarter, and just talking about the way Kickstarters work, I did want to clarify one thing. I'm pretty sure it's this way for everybody, but I know it's this way for me. When you see somebody else do something really cool, you immediately write that down and say, I'm going to do my twist on this. Because talking about our Chicago friends, Andrew Peepoy on his Simone and Ajax Kickstarter did a mystery box. I don't think he actually did a physical box, but it was like a mystery combo. And I was like, oh, I like that. And I like doing these little funky box sets. So I'm going to, make it an actual box. And the box set idea I ripped off from Tyler James and Comics Tribe because they did one for Wailing Blade. So yeah, all of this stuff. It's funny because when I did the second Athena Kickstarter, the first one through Action Lab, they said that everything they did when they started doing Kickstarters was stolen from that first one that I did in 2010, when the platform is like 9 months old. So it really does just go to show you that, everybody's building on somebody else's success when we go, oh shit, that's the kind of toy that I want. When I worked at FASA, the game company,
Yeah.
Sam Lewis was the production manager, and he always talked about, he was like a hardcore war gamer, and he always talked about the fun little crap that you would put in the box set, cool figures and chits and all the shiny stuff.
Sure.
As he jokingly called it, Cretan bait. But that's the stuff that I love. I love these fun physical objects. When we did the box set for the Catch, there are plastic handcuffs with the Catch packaging. With the Athena stuff, it's the metal pilot wings.
Absolutely.
I love these things. It takes me back to when I would first go to Chicago Comic-Con, and Kitchen Sink would be raffling off a Rocketeer tin sign. By the way, I won that. It's up there facing me over there on the wall. But yeah, I mean, I loved all of that kind of stuff. So in some ways, doing these Kickstarters is just trying to tap into all these fun little nerdy things that we all like to collect and hoard and all of that.
As we were paying tribute to Dave Stevens, I forgot to ask you, remind me again, because we did talk about it years ago on the podcast when they had the Dave Stevens estate auction and you won a couple things. Did you?
Well, actually, one of my readers got something for me. I don't know if you can see it behind me. There's a Nexus statue holding up a bunch of books.
Okay, I've singled you out. So is that just over your shoulder there
Yeah, just over my shoulder.
on the bottom shelf?
Yeah. And then
See
right
it?
next to him is this kind of brown shaped thing.
Yes.
That's a notebook holder from the Stevens estate.
Wow.
So one of my readers gave that to me at um, a C2E2, and it was the most
I remember that guy. What's his name? He was an older gentleman.
Lance.
Lance, of course,
I,
Lance. Lance, if you're watching, I apologize not remembering the name right away.
I
But
feel bad that I
absolutely,
can't remember the
great guy.
last name.
Great,
But
great guy.
yeah,
Absolutely. Sweetheart
and
of a guy. I hope you're doing okay, Lance, during these strange, terrible times.
yeah, but it was like the sweetest gift. I still can't believe I've got that. I need to frame the
Great guy.
certificate of authenticity and put it up somewhere in here. But yeah, that's right next to a Steve Rude designed statue and all kind of that's my little influence area because there's Williamson and Mignola on the shelves right above it. So
Funny. Have you met Steve?
oh, Steve Rude?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, um
Good dude.
okay, so here's another rambling story, because I have no other kind of story. Uh, but I knew. Oh, she's on Facebook. Hey, Misha, if you're watching, I knew somebody that was from Madison who was a comic book inker, and she had learned a lot from Steve Rude. And I had gotten this was pre-email, so I got his mailing address, and I wrote him a fan letter. I'm what 20 at the time, maybe 22. Um, so it was it was a clumsy fan letter because it's asking all kinds of process questions, and I mailed it off into the void, and like within 2 weeks, I got a typewritten letter, in the mail. Well, the envelope had my name and the little SR signature in the return address with an arrow pointing to mine, and it was pure dude, and yeah, he wrote a wonderful letter and answered every single stupid question I had for him, and then he closed with, um, because we are all individuals, you will find your own solutions to these questions. And it's funny because at the time I was trying really hard to be Steve Rude in my art and failing miserably. And it was almost like he said, I give you permission to not just emulate me. And it was the coolest thing. And I sometimes find myself thinking back to that letter and realizing how much it's also influenced the way that I look at most things and most people, because you're an individual, you will find your own solution to these questions. And so it's not just an art thing; it's a life thing. And I've still got that letter, and it's faded a bit, but that probably needs to be on the wall too. So
Very good. That's
so yes,
awesome.
I met him a few times at various conventions, and he remembered that incident. But I just get so intimidated by some of these creators that are just so amazing that I lose the words.
No, I understand, man, and he's a special creator, and I really respect him, and I was thrilled that Alex got him Ross to work on the Marvels project that he's currently doing, the anthology. In fact,
Oh, he
Hillary,
is.
yeah, Hillary has a story in there this week, and so does Sal Abenanti. Actually,
Holy cow!
they both have stories in the current issue of Marvels. But yeah, it was in the first or second issue. Steve did an Avengers story, and of course in that inimitable aping but in his own way of the Silver Age style, you can't help but love it. I mean, my god, it's been a long time since I talked to Steve about it, but when I talked to Dave Gibbons, I always talk about the Superman Hulk team up that they did.
And he did the World's
World's
Finest
Finest.
series with Gibbons too.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, it's so cool. Anytime you hear or read an interview with Steve, there is such a purity
Yes.
in like what comics mean to him, and um
How he tries to honor them with
yeah,
his stuff.
it is literally a noble path he is
Yes.
on. And I just, boy, that it's just such a pure vision. Yeah. Wind me up and let me talk about any creator that I love their work, and I'll gush in like 2 minutes.
No problem, man. That's what we're doing. That's what the show's all about. So, well, in conclusion, it's Athena Voltaire. Give me the proper title for Orient Express. What is it?
Oh, yeah. Did you notice I screwed it up twice in the video? It's Athena Voltaire and the Terror on the Orient Express.
Okay.
And I came up with that not realizing that I would have to say it as many times as I have. And I regret that very
Well,
much.
go again. I'm going to throw it up on the screen, and that way I can read it for the audio
Oh,
listeners.
yeah.
Again, go to bit.ly/AV_ Orient Express. That will take you to the Kickstarter page, give you the opportunity to help contribute and get your copy of what's sure to be another great action adventure Aviatrix story with our favorite 30s flying ace, Athena Voltaire.
Awesome. Thank you.
So thanks, buddy. Thank you very much for talking. And we'll next campaign. Give me a buzz.
Oh, I will.
Excellent, Steve. I was going to say Steve Voltaire. Steve Voltaire, everybody. Steve Bryant, everybody. Thank you very much for watching Word Balloon Live. We will join you again next week with a whole slew of new video interviews, and very excited about other people I've got lined up. It's going to be a fabulous February right here on Word Balloon. Until next time.